Now, what were your class colors that year?
I don't remember.
You remember the colors? Because I think you got you have a letter that it was purple and white.
Well, purple and white was my basketball letter.
But you think that was the school
Well,
colors?
Yeah, that would be the school colors. Yeah,
So
sure.
purple and white in the 30s was the school colors.
Now this was earlier. Some school. No, then they became black and orange, and then later some school got new uniforms, and so we changed ours to, what are they, blue?
Red, blue, and
Red, white, and blue.
Mhm.
And that's why we have the red, white, and blue, because someone donated their what
Who did they
their old
play?
ones to us.
Who did they play?
Tell us, who did you, when you were playing basketball or when the boys were playing football, who did you play as far as the schools around here?
Well, in our basketball, I'm thinking of the girls. We played in Deming and now Garda and Tularosa. Now that's all I remember going to. And I want it known that we played basketball where the mortuary is now.
Up here on Cedar Street.
On Cedar Street. That later was bought by years later, but it was the only big enough building to play basketball inside. This.
So what was the building? Was it a mortuary then? Or
Oh no,
it was,
they built probably for a dance hall.
Oh, okay. So it was like a large dance
It was
hall.
called Salcedo Hall.
Oh, really? Was this the Salcedo? Was he on the school board?
Later, the same name of the same people of the same
family? Yeah, because they also gave the property for Salcedo Stadium, which students in the 50s and the 60s played football, didn't they? Down on 3rd Street? Where did the boys play football?
They played football down under the hill of the Carotena Hospital, down back of your place, out in there.
And that would have been the Hobson Field.
Hinson Hobbs.
Hidson?
Hobbs.
Hidson, Hobbs.
I didn't know it was called that, but that's where it was.
That was the field down there. And so, and then later, they gave some of the land, Hinson and Hobbs gave some of the land to Carey-Tingley Hospital then, didn't they? When they needed the contribution to build the Carey-Tingley Hospital here. Weren't they land developers?
Yes.
No. Hobbs was already here, and Hinson was just looking for. He came over from Globe, Arizona, I think, just looking to get started. And real estate, probably. That was it.
And they had a tragedy in their family, didn't
Very
they?
sad.
Yeah. Was that girl in your class?
Yes.
You want to tell us
We
about?
were sophomores.
And was it Charlie Hinson was the brother?
And Wyona was the girl that was killed. In an automobile accident coming from Chloride. They went up to get some kind of ore samples, and coming back, they came over Red Hill, which was a very treacherous place at that time, and something happened. And
Car caught on. Did the car catch on fire, or was there a wreck, or?
I don't think so. If he did, I think he got that out before. He had to go clear back to Winston before he found any help. And that was it would be about 5 miles.
So then they named, in memory of, we have a Wyona Street down in the,
And Charlie.
and Charles.
Well, that was just named because they owned that property, and when they named the streets, the children were named it.
That was also what Jewel Mims did out there at Rodeo Arena in the 60s. He named, there's Jewel Street, and there's Glen Street, and there are other streets out there that were named after family members as well.
Yeah.
So that was a very common practice in the 30s and the 40s. Annette, do you remember or do you recall some of the people who worked at the dam? You mentioned earlier that some of the buildings at Frenchie's Camp had been brought in from the dam. Do you remember people that worked at the dam that may have moved and stayed here in Hot Springs at the time?
Well, the small housing, I think he was superintendent of the dam. And he was Sophie Hedrick's father. And so Mrs. Hedrick lived here. Also, she had two sisters. That's all I recall.
Mm-hmm.
And so there would be, but they didn't live in a place like that, and he was superintendent of it after that.
Mm-hmm.
And he is buried at the cemetery across the lake.
The one that's up on the hill there, going toward Ingle?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I wonder, yeah. Do you have any idea how many people were buried in that cemetery when they, because at one time that was quite an active cemetery, wasn't it?
Well, the people that died during the time of the construction, what they start? Did they start the dam in 1911 and 1916 when it was completed?
Mm-hmm.
Well, so people were killed and died naturally and so
Mm-hmm.
on and so forth. And let me see, I don't know who else lived there, but he lived at the dam. After that, he didn't just live here in town, and I can't think of anyone just offhanded that came.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember a Guy Sharp? Guy Sharp, do you remember him?
Was he the one that had the boat concession out there?
Uh-huh.
I remember very faintly.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Didn't he live in Ingle? Do you remember, did he live in Ingle and then?
I don't know that he didn't live in Ingle. He lived right at the dam when he had the boat docks.
Concessions, because he had one of the...
But I think he was from Socorro.
Mm-hmm. That's right, okay. All right. Describe the roads. You know, we've talked about the accident coming in from Chloride, and then the roads from Ingle in here. What do you recollect about the roads, the condition of the roads when...
Well, I remember one thing, the roads had to come up out of Kachia Creek over a hill. It's where the rodeo grounds are now. It came over the hill to come in town. And when you went out of town, you had to go out over the hill at Caratingley, and you didn't go over the road that it is now. You went up a curved road and you came out about where the hospital is at that time. And then you went through Mesquite and Greasewood and so forth on down the highway.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't anything below.
Right. And they were they...
And then too, they had always gone to Palomas, people, before the town began to grow a little bit. They always went to Kachia and then down around to Palomas. So my brother Cecil Wilson and Cecil Phillips went out to where the roads forked and put a lot of rocks in the roads, turning them through here.
So they did put the rocks in the road to direct the traffic into Hot Springs.
Yeah.
Did it make a difference?
I don't know that. That was just one of the tales I remember.
That's a good one. And the roads, they were dirt, weren't they? I mean,
We didn't have any roads really. The cars just went where they could. And you had a flat tire every 3 or 4 miles, you got out, and they had inner tubes in the tires at that time, and they took them out and passed the inner tube, put it back on, and pumped them back up, and were on their way.
and away they went.
I remember that.
How long would it take you to drive? Did you ever go to Las Cruces or Albuquerque? And
I don't remember. I remember in the late 20s, probably, my sister was going to school at the university in Albuquerque, and she had to have an appendicitis operation. And I don't know, Cecil took my mother up there, and gosh, it took them, well, they were gone 2 or 3 days. It seemed like a long time,
Yeah.
you know. It took them all day, I imagine, to get into Albuquerque at that time. The roads were they weren't even graded.
Right.
You weren't sure you were always on the right road.
So it was easy to put rocks in the road and
And, you know,
redirect.
cars didn't have fuel pumps at that time, and the hills were bad in some places, and they had to turn around and back up them.
Back up the hills.
Back up because the fuel pump was I don't know what it does. But
Wouldn't
anyway.
pick up the gas.
It wouldn't pick up the gas, so that's why they turned around. And I've got a postcard of La Bajada Hill out of Santa Fe. They would back up that hill, and I often wondered why. I thought the traction was in the back, but it was the fuel pumps.
It was with fuel pumps.
And they also, you'd honk your horn all the way up these hills. You'd honk your horn, so if there was somebody coming down the hill, I don't know how they heard one another. Well, then one of them could pull over so the other one could get by. I can remember that going to Engle.
Yeah, I do too. I remember, one time with my parents going out there to pick
Yeah.
up a boat that had come in on the train. Yeah, this had been in the early 50s, about right?
Yep.
Yep.